I am just chilling out. This is the time where whenever I just kind of get anything done, I plop on the couch and I try to zone out for like an hour. It's about sometimes the max that I can do before I have to get up and I have to do stuff. So I'm just a multitasker at heart, so it's very hard for me to just chill out, but I'm trying to make myself relax more. So anyways, I want to tell you guys a little story. All right. Let me tell you what went down. So yesterday, as you guys saw a clip in the vlog before this one, I really don't know, I was at Hobby Lobby. While I was there, I got a phone call from my pest control, which is kind of interesting because I don't get phone calls from them. I get quarterly visits, that's 4 times a year, and I usually get an email just saying, hey, just FYI, you know, they're coming out to spray. And they only do this like on the outside of the house. So that's why there's really no like phone call to schedule a specific like times that you can be present, because it's really not needed. So I found it, you know, kind of like, why are they calling me? And the lady said, hi, I was just calling to schedule, you know, your appointment for your annual inspection. And she was like, oh, you know, it's your annual inspection, it's free. And I was like, well, is there a reason why I need to have an appointment of any sort? Aren't they just going to inspect the outside of the house? And she said, and I should have kind of like picked up on this, I definitely realized it afterwards that the whole connection for me was a little off, but she said something along the lines of, oh, well, no, he'll also want to come inside and just check, and then they will want to sit down with you and go over their findings. And instinctively, in my mind, I'm like, okay, I guess like wanting to check the inside because, you know, I just started seeing spiders. So I was kind of like, okay, whatever. At the time, again, I thought nothing of it. The guy shows up and he doesn't start looking around the outside of the house first. He comes and knocks at the door. And I just thought, oh, he's knocking at the door to tell me he's here. He's gonna go kind of like just double check and see if, you know, the work that they've been doing last year has been proving to be good work, I guess. I don't know. So then but no, he wants to basically come inside and he wants to, you know, like check certain areas of the house and blah, blah, blah. And I'm not joking you when I tell you guys, the first 30 seconds, I don't know what it is, but I was just like, they're gonna try to sell me something. And so then he's like, oh, you know, just so you know, I'm gonna be checking for termites. And I'm like, okay, great, you know, this house is pretty new. So he starts going and he's like, well, yeah, this house is a couple years old, and but you know, termites gotta come somewhere to like eat and blah blah blah. And I'm just like, okay. He starts looking around, he's checking, he said he's checking certain areas like under my kitchen sink, and he's checking the garage, and that was basically it. I think he checked some of the like where the pantry was, and then he goes outside, and then I do see him walk all around the property, and then I noticed he walked over to the neighbor's side and was looking at the neighbor's property. And so I was just kind of like, what is this guy doing? Now meanwhile, he mentioned termites, but in my head I'm like, this lady calls me to tell me I have an annual inspection on my pest control, and that includes ants, spiders, the hornets, all of those things. That's what they spray my house for. And this guy comes back in, and y'all, I wish I would have recorded my face, and I know I'm sorry, but actually I'm gonna try to actually show you what my face looked like. But he sits down, and I kid you not, he was like, He's like, okay, I have some good news and I have some bad news. Immediately, I gave him what I think was my, you're not talking to somebody stupid look, is what I gave him. I immediately went, oh no, it was, I, you guys, I knew it from the very get-go that this whole, like, and it wasn't, again, it wasn't when the lady called that I figured anything was off. It was when he walked through the door that I was just kind of like, why are they making this such a thing? Because pest control really isn't, I don't know, maybe it is. And I'm not saying that what they did was wrong in any way, shape, or form. I'm not saying that. Like, yes, people should check for termites and those things should happen. And just because I do live in a newer home doesn't mean that termites aren't here. But I can also smell BS a mile away. I can smell a sale a mile away, and I wasn't having it. I'm also not saying that maybe I do have termites or don't have termites or like whatever the case may be. I just wasn't going to take his word for it when the whole thing for me seemed off from the beginning. And mind you, just to go off of like my gut instinct of the whole thing, like I said, the first 30 seconds I was just kind of like, something was fluff. And he didn't mention termites or anything in that 30 seconds. He didn't mention, it was just, you just get a gut feeling when you see somebody and just like their overall aura or behavior or like whatever it is, you just kind of get this inkling, and that's what happened. So when he came back and he sits down, he has this look on his face like he's just been, it's his thing, like his selling point, almost like he's gonna talk to you because either because I'm a female or I'm stupid or like whatever it is, and he just has this overly kind of serious expression on his face. I knew, like I said, I knew that moment, and he starts going, he goes, the good news is, and he's stumbling because he sees the expression on my face. I'm not being shy at all about this. I think the reason why, I don't know, it's because I'm a Capricorn, or it's just because I've been independent for so long and I've dealt with people trying to take advantage, mechanics and things and all of those things, that I don't even try to be shy about standing my ground in terms of not letting somebody kind of like bulldozer over me in instances like this. He starts saying, he's like, well, the good news is that I haven't found any termites in your house. The bad news is that your neighbors do. And that was his whole spiel. He then proceeds to show me a picture that he took over here of my neighbor's lawn, and there's like this one area. He's like, see that, all of that right there? It was basically where grass wasn't growing. And he was like, that's how you know they're treating for termites. And I'm like, well, of course, I don't know if that's true or not because I don't treat things for termites, so I have no idea what that looks like on a property. And I just kind of found it odd too that he just showed like one little section, or only found one section of my neighbor's house, but then proceeds to tell me how termite stuff is actually taken care of in a house. He talks about like setting up these poles or something all around the property, or like whatever it is. Maybe it's not poles, but something. Okay, that would go all around the property basically, okay? But only shows like the one piece over here. He's like, well, that means that if your neighbors have it, the termites are gonna come over here. And I'm just looking at him like, and my face has not changed. And the more he talks, the more I'm like, in my head, I'm just being honest with you, I was like, I want this guy to leave. Then he does this little bit. In this part right here, I honestly don't even know how to express what was going through my mind, but let me tell you, and then maybe I can like work it out, talking it out loud. But he proceeds to say, he's like, let me ask you a question. Does the thought of termites, does that make you afraid? And I instantly went, no. He was just like, well, and then he asks the question again, you guys. And I'm like, didn't I just answer this question? It was almost like he wasn't prepared for that. I could definitely tell that he had a script in his mind and he was expecting my answer to be different because I don't think he worked it out in his mind if somebody said no. I think it's almost like they want to drive the sale by making you afraid of you having termites. And so he literally asks me the question again in the same exact format, words, sentence, the whole thing. And he's like, does the thought of having termites make you afraid? And I said, no, they don't. And then basically I cut him off because I wanted to get to the meat of the situation. And I said, why don't you just tell me how much treating my house for termites is going to cost? And he says, $2,100. And then he proceeds to say how, like I said, how that would be treated. That's how I found out how that works. And I was just like, I knew. And I just gave him this look like, not today, not here, not today. And I don't take well to getting kind of bulldozed like this, to be honest. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with, a pest company doing their job, because that is part of their job, and like I completely appreciate that, but I knew it was a pushed sale to begin with, and to me, I don't think my neighbors have termites at all. He basically was trying to use fear as a tactic to sell the $2,100 to, go ahead and seal. Now, here's the other thing. Obviously, you don't have to wait to have termites, right, to take care of the property. But I feel like my neighbors do not have termites. He knows I don't have termites because I think that's why he was trying to get whatever photo he could to try to push the fear of, oh my gosh, your neighbors are treating for termites. That means termites are going to come over here and eat food. And at one point he said this to me. He was like, it's not like your walls are going to fall down today. And I was like, you're right, they're not. That's the one thing I will say, that obviously I'm not at all implying that my pest company did anything wrong in the instance of having somebody look at my house for termites and all those things. So then I said this to him. I said, I'm done talking about termites. And he just looks at me. It was literally a game of both of us being quiet after one of us said something, kind of like, did you really just say that kind of thing? And he just kind of looks at me and he's like, and I said, why don't you tell me about the other inspection that you've done? What's your report on everything else in the spiders? Now, what I didn't tell you guys is that when he first walked in here, he didn't mention anything about termites. And he's like, oh, so have you been like seeing anything? And I said, I just started seeing some spiders come out right after the snow melted. He's like, oh, some spiders? And I was like, yeah. He was like, oh, where? And so I tell him, because that seems like a legit question for him to ask. I'm like, oh, I see them mostly in the kitchen area and the entryway. He literally proceeds to look at the baseboards over here and the entryway, and then all of a sudden, no more talk about spiders. Then he comes back in, he's like, I'm gonna check for termites. Okay? Keep that in mind, because then after he tells me it's gonna cost $2,100, I immediately shut him down, because I was like, that confirmed it for me. I knew that it was a sale from the beginning, and I knew going off of gut instincts, which could be wrong, but I'm like, I don't have termites and neither do my neighbors. Okay. This guy was just trying to say, well, we don't have actual proof that you have termites, which I think that he couldn't lie about that, because if he said I had termites and I didn't, that could be a whole lawsuit, right? So he was trying to sell the fear of, well, you don't have it, but guess who does? And I then say, well, why don't you tell me about the rest of of your inspection? I said, well, why don't you tell me about spiders? And this is what he says to me. He goes, well, I'm not here for the spiders or the ants. He said that the annual inspection was for pests. And I'm like, he goes, termites. And I said, yeah, but you're my pest control. And I was told this was an annual inspection on the pest situation. I said, y'all spray for my spiders, you spray for the wasps, you spray for the ants. He goes, oh, she didn't tell you on the phone that this was a termite inspection? And I said, no, she didn't. But remember that before, when he first walked in, before he even mentioned termites, and he asked, oh, are you seeing anything? And I said spiders, and he proceeded to act like it was interesting and like, oh, really? Okay. But then when I shut down the whole termite thing, all of a sudden, the conversation's over for him too, because he really only came here to sell me the fear of I could have termites, so let me spend $2,100 so that I don't. And like I said, I think out of everything that he did, the one that really pushed my button was when he asked the question of, when you think of termites, doesn't that make you afraid? Why should I be afraid? I'm not afraid of termites. I'm not afraid of spiders. I'm not afraid of wasps. Like, those things aren't great. They're not happy. They're not, but no, they don't make me afraid. Would I be annoyed and upset if I found I had termites and they were doing damage to my house? Yeah, I probably would be, but afraid? I don't know. But anyways, that's the story.